Hey, I'm Randy. I'm the designer and illustrator of Radiant, and I'm here to tell you a little bit about how to play. This is the Radiant setup for a two-player game. We've got two hands dealt up. They're just going to be sitting on the table instead of in the hands like they normally would be. We've got a 9-card drafting pool set out next to the deck. We've got the board set out with score markers in the corner, a battle tracker in the middle. We've got 3-point coins out on the temples on our map. And we've marked one corner of the map to show which of the 4 races in this game is the Radiant race for the first age, and that'll change each age. The Radiant race was marked by looking at the bottom card of the deck for the first age, and that'll rotate in future ages. So this is the world of Param that we'll be fighting over. It's divided up into these 4 realms, and the 4 races in the game are native to those 4 realms. The Avis of the Clouds, the Treefolk of the Forests, the Mariners of the Sea, and the Stone Dwellers live in the mountains. And each of those races have developed the abilities required to dominate their realm. So you're going to strategically have to pay attention to who you're using in what realm in order to win this war. Now, the game takes place over 3 ages, as I mentioned, and each age is broken up into a few different sections where you get dealt out a hand, you draft 4 additional cards up into your hand so that you can make some strategic decisions about the makeup of your army, and then after that you'll meld cards by creating sets of cards that you'll lay down in front of you, and your opponent will be able to see your sets of cards, your melds. And then after the melding process, we'll move around this map and have battles in the different regions of the map, and we'll control the ones that we win. So, for example, if the battle tracker was moved here and we had a battle there and the yellow player won, they would control that with a yellow cube. They'd get to choose where the next battle takes place. Maybe they win that battle as well. They come in here. The red player maybe wins this one. And we move our way around the map, controlling regions until both players have exhausted their army. That'll be the end of the age. At the end of the age, you'll score 4 points if you control a majority of regions in a realm. So this, for example, would be a 4-point yellow majority, and this would be a 4-point red majority. You only need 1 cube for a majority. And if there are the same number of cubes in a single realm, then no points would be awarded. You'll also score any coins that you earned during the battle. You earn coins by being victorious in a battle that takes place in a region that has a coin in it. You just take that into your hand, and at the end of the round, you'll be able to score silver coins are worth 3 points. Now, in the first age, there are only silver coins out on the temples. In later ages, there are other coins out on these other non-portal, non-temple regions, and the coins actually hang out on the board from age to age. So in later ages, it's possible for a temple, for example, to have 9 points on it, or for a normal region to have a couple of points on it. The final way to score points is at the end of the 3rd age, any cards that you've captured that have point markers on them will also be worth points. So those are the ways to get points. Let's take a second and look at the different units and meld values in the game. If you look at this right player aid over here, you'll see on the bottom portion the 6 different units in the game: the Phalanx, Knight, Mount, Scout, Elder, and the Assassin. The more complex shield is the more powerful unit on down, and then the Assassin is slightly different. That's because it jumps out of the power order. The Assassin is the weakest unit by itself. These are the kinds of assassins that poison your soup. But if it's used to successfully assassinate, then it jumps up here and it becomes the most powerful individual unit. The most powerful play you can make at all is a Knight and a Mount from the same race that are played in combination together. There are 4 different sets of cards you can create in your hands that are worth points. We call these melds. You can get a 4-of-a-kind elders, 1 from each race. An army is everything except for the assassin, all from the single race, so all the shield cards. The Assassin's Guild is 4-of-a-kind assassins, and then the Mounted Knight, in addition to being a powerful unit in the war, is also worth meld points. And you can see in the 3 different ages of the game that these melds increase in value. There's an acceleration of points in this game that kind of keeps everybody invested all the way up to the very end. The first thing players do is draft 4 additional cards into their hand by taking a card off of the drafting pool, replacing it with another card from the deck. The next player takes a card, and so forth until each player has drafted a total of 4 additional cards. At this point, players will meld the sets of cards from their hand. For example, if the yellow player has a knight and a mount, they'll lay that down in front of them, score the points, allow the other player to see those cards, and then they'll take them back up into their hand afterwards. Let's talk about battle resolution now. After the melds are complete, we'll move on to the war. The player with the most scouts in their hand is going to choose where the battle tracker goes first. And then they're going to play one of the units from their hand of cards. The unit that they play has to follow these rules. The unit has to live in the location that they are hosting the battle. So in this case, you would have to play an Avis if you have one. If you don't have an Avis, you could play any card that you want. The exception to this rule is the Radiant race. Remember, Stone Dwellers are Radiant here for this first stage. And so the red player here can actually choose to play a Stone Dweller if they want to. Now the card that wins is the card that is the highest on the ranking chart. Stone Dwellers and Avis, in this case, are going to be on equal footing. The Stone Dwellers aren't more powerful for being Radiant, they simply can compete in other regions. They're kind of like a wild suit. Any ties will break to the person who played the card first. So let's come back to our hand here. We actually have a mount and a knight from the Avis race that we could play together in combo if we really think we need to win this one. But we've only got one pair of those, so I think it might be good to hang on to that and see if we can win our temple and get the 3 points that are sitting there. So let's try just playing our individual knight by itself. We'll set it out in the play area here. And then our opponent is going to do the same thing. Unfortunately, our opponent, the yellow player, has played a phalanx on top of our knight. The phalanx is a more powerful unit. You can see that it's a more complex shield, and it's also higher on the ranking chart. So they're going to take these 2 cards that were part of that battle that they just won. They're going to place them in front of them, face down. It actually doesn't really matter in the first age, but in the third age, any points on those cards will be scored. And so we always place captured cards face down in front of us to keep up the habit. Back to the board then, the yellow player is going to place a control cube here in this region, and they get to choose an adjacent region to move the battle tracker into. We're going to move the battle tracker here into this portal region and talk about how those work. There are 2 pairs of portals on the board, the Cloud Forest portal, and we have the Sea Mountain portals. And basically, they are adjacent to their partner across the board. So if we win a battle here, in addition to moving out to the adjacent spaces, we could also jump across the board to this space over here. Additionally, portals are 2 terrain types. So for all purposes of battle resolution, this is both forest and clouds. That means that we could play Avis here, or we could play Treefolk here. We could also play the Radiant race as usual. And all 3 of those races would be on equal footing in this particular region. Now the yellow player is looking at this cloud temple and thinking, yeah, I want to go there, but looking at my hand, I don't know if I'm confident I could win there or not. So maybe I'll just win in this portal and then we'll escape to the sea and see what kind of damage we can do over there. So the yellow player is going to play their phalanx of the Treefolk race out into the play area. And now our red player needs to decide how badly they want to win this. Now, they actually have a phalanx as well, but since yellow has already played a phalanx, the first player to play a tied card takes the win, so we don't want to waste that. But we are in a portal where we can still play the Avis race, and we do have that mounted knight. So if we want to take it now, we could do it. Well, if we win this battle, do you think we can make it into the temple? I'm looking at our hand, and we do have the Stone Dweller Phalanx, and because the Stone Dwellers are radiant, we might be able to get that win. So let's go ahead and play our Mounted Knight here as the red player on top of their phalanx. The Mounted Knight is the single most powerful thing you can do in the game, so it wins this battle. We're going to place these cards face down in front of us in our captured pile, and we're going to mark that with a red cube. Now let's go ahead and see if we can win that Cloud Temple. Move the battle tracker into the region containing the temple and its 3-point coin. And coming back here to our hand, we are going to play that Stone Dweller Phalanx, which we can play since it's the Radiant race right now. And we'll see what the yellow player has to offer. So the yellow player could play the Stone Dweller Knight, but that's not going to beat a Phalanx. They do have the Avis Elder and the Avis Scout, so they're not going to be allowed to play any of these other races because they do have an Avis. But they aren't going to be able to win. So the yellow player is just going to play the lowest card they can, the Elder in this case, on top of our Phalanx. But the red player's Phalanx wins, and they control that with a cube. We also get to take that 3-point coin that was on the temple. We'll score that at the end of the age. Now we got to decide where we're going to go next. You know, we're all out of Avis, so I'm hesitant to stay in the clouds, but it looks like we would be strong if we were in the sea, so let's see if we can't get there. Let's move into this region over here, since it's adjacent to a sea region, and see if we can win just one more battle in the clouds. We have no Avis, but we do still have one Radiant Stone Dweller. It's a mount. Let's try that out. We're going to play our mount, and our opponent is going to look at their hand. Now the yellow player here does have an Avis card and one Radiant card. So these are the only two playable cards that the yellow player has. The Scout would lose the battle, lower than a mount, but the Knight would win the battle. So the yellow player is looking at the board and is trying to decide if it's worth it. Winning this would negate red's majority in the clouds, but it wouldn't give a majority to the yellow, but it would allow the yellow player a chance to drive the battle, so it might be worth it. The yellow player is going to go ahead and try that out. Going to play the Radiant Knight on top of the Radiant Mount, so the Knight wins this battle. They're going to take these cards, place them face down in their captured pile, and mark it with a yellow cube. Now the yellow player's looking at this board, and they know they've got a Mounted Knight they could win in the sea, but they want that 4-point majority they could have by controlling the most regions in the clouds. So, although they're not strong in Avis, they do still have a Knight of Tree Folk. Now, yellow can lead a battle into here again because it's not controlled by yellow, it's controlled by red. So the yellow player is going to move into here, and they're going to play their Tree Folk Knight into the play area. And the red player is going to look at what they have, and they're all out of Avis, but they're actually kind of strong in Tree Folk, and since they're on a portal region where both races can be played, still they're going to go with that, play the Phalanx on top of the Knight, and the red player wins that battle. It's already marked with a cube, so the red player is just going to leave that cube there, and now they have a couple choices again. They could move diagonally across the board into the other portal, or they could just move next door into the sea. And they're thinking, we're thinking that we could probably get into that sea temple if we wanted to, and score a majority in the sea at the same time. So let's move in here and try our hand at an assassination. Now we haven't looked at assassins left yet, so let's go over those rules. For an assassin to successfully assassinate another unit, it has to be native to the region where you are, or it could be the Radiant race. If it's native or Radiant, then you can use an assassin to target another unit. And you do that by naming a card that's in your opponent's hand. But the only kind of card that can be targeted is a unit that lives where you are, which is to say that's native there. So in this case, our Mariner Assassin can only target a Mariner card here. Now, if we were here, then our Mariner Assassin could also target a Stone Dweller card, because that's the portal. But here we can only target a Mariner card. So we're going to play our Assassin out, and we're going to name a card that we think our opponent has. It just so happens that we have a really good memory, and we remember that the yellow player melded a Mounted Knight, for which they received 1 point. So we can't target a Mount and a Knight, that's 2 cards, but we can target the Knight by itself. So we're going to say that we are assassinating the yellow player's Mariner Knight. Now we've named it specifically, and the yellow player, sure enough, does have a Mariner Knight, and so they're going to pull that card out. They have to play it, and as per the ranking chart, this is a successful assassination, and so the assassin wins that battle. Place it face down in front of us, mark our region with a cube, and decide where we're going next. But at this point, I think you can see how the battles work. You've seen how portals, temples, and assassinations, Mounted Knights work, which is a pretty good handle. So we're going to pull back and give a final overview. Here's an idea of what the map might look like at the end of the first age. So at this point, you would score your majorities. Here we've got yellow with a majority in the mountains. We've got yellow with a majority in the forest, red with a majority in the sea, and they're tied in the clouds, so nobody would score any points here. It'd be 4 points per majority, so this is 8 points to yellow and 4 points to red for majorities. Additionally, the red player has collected a 3-point coin, and the yellow player has also collected a 3-point coin, so they're going to move their score markers along the track accordingly and set up for the second age. Here we've got the board set up for the second age now. You can see we've brought out additional coins into the temples. The ones that weren't claimed previously now have 2 coins. We've also placed a 1-point coin on all of the non-portal, non-temple regions. And we'll rotate the Radiant race clockwise around the board. So now for the second age, the Avis race is Radiant. At this point, we would shuffle all of the cards together, deal out a 10-card hand to each player, deal out our 9-card drafting pool again. The players will look through their cards, organize them. They'll take turns picking a card from the drafting pool, replacing it from the deck. The next player picks a card from the drafting pool, replaces it from the deck, and they continue to do that until each player has drafted 4 cards. The drafting pool will be cleared, the deck will be set aside, and players will meld by placing sets of cards face up on the table so that their opponent can see them, score those points, and then we'll come back to the board again and continue the war, again with the player having the most scouts in hand, beginning the battle for the second age. This will happen again in the third age. In the second age, remember, we're going to use these points. Third age, we'll use these points for meld values. Also in the third age, any cards that you have captured by the end of the age will score points if they have a coin on them. And that's basically it. That's the whole game. Thanks for checking out this overview of Radiant. I'd love to have your support. Thanks.